Today I'm going to walk you through my process of how I turn cute photos like this into even cuter waterproof stickers like this. For this video today, I'm going to be using Photoshop, a photo printer, printable vinyl sheets, a laminator with laminating sheets, and also a Cricut Maker 3. Let's get started. So for the first step, I'm going to do the cutout of the sticker, and I'm going to edit the photo a little bit in Photoshop. Of course, you can use whatever photo editing software that you have, including if you have an iPhone, the iOS one that's built in is already really good. And now in the new iOS, you can actually do a cutout of a photo kind of already built in. So you can always do that, but of course, because I want more control over the whole process, I'm going to use Photoshop since I have that. So this image here is actually a cute picture of my two nephews. So I'm going to be using this photo here, and the first thing I want to do is I want to select the object selection tool, which is over here. I'm going to draw a box around the subject. And then Photoshop is going to kind of make a selection based on what they think is the subject. So obviously you see it's a little off. You can always hit select subject again and kind of have it retry again if it's really off. Like this area here is definitely not what I want to add. So there you go, it got rid of that. It's a little bit better there. So now I'm going to select the top part here where it says select and mask. I'm going to click that. And in here, this is like the masking area. You can see the bright green area is the part that I'm going to be masking out. And you can change the color here to whatever color you would like, but I like it to be on this really bright green so that I can tell very easily what is selected and what is not. There are some tools here for you to refine the edge on this side here. The only one that I like to use before I start with anything is maybe the radius one. I will kind of slide it a little bit and see how that affects the image. You know, obviously when you get to a certain point, you're going to see that it's adding in things that you don't want it to add, and it's looking a little funky, right? So that's why I will just slide it until I see it starts to get rid of things I don't want it to get rid of, right? So I think maybe around there looks pretty good to me. So I think that gives me a pretty good selection already to begin my work. So once I do that, then I'm going to go over to the tools over on the left side here. And there are a couple of tools you can use, like this quick selection tool, the refine edge tool. I don't tend to like to use those tools just because they add a lot of transparency sometimes and fuzzy kind of lines, and for a sticker I want it to be very sharp, so that's why I always only use the brush one, which is the third one here. I'm gonna zoom in, and then I'm gonna just use the brush to paint in parts that I want to paint in and get rid of parts that I don't want to be in the selection. I am using a Wacom like screen to do this, so it's a lot easier for me because I'm doing that. Of course, you can still use your mouse to do this perfectly fine. It's just a lot easier, obviously, if I use the Wacom. And at the very top of here, you'll see there's a plus and minus, so that can tell you where you're adding or subtracting from the mask. And you can always hold Alt also to do the opposite. So right now I have it on plus, so plus it'll add, right? But if I hold Alt on my keyboard and then I do the same thing, it'll subtract. So it always does the opposite if you hold Alt in here. Okay, so for me, I just want to paint in a little bit of the parts of his hair on here. But to be honest, the selection was actually pretty darn good for this. One thing I really like about having the Wacom is also I can kind of change the brush size using this little like scroll thing on that I have. I will say, if you are someone that does a lot of this, like you're going to be doing like a lot of stickers like this, or you just like to do a lot of like digital art or anything like that, I would say, you know, you should probably consider looking into getting some sort of a tablet. And this one obviously is a lot more pricier, and I used Photoshop for 10-20 years, kind of just for fun, without having one of these. I had instead like my first one I got like maybe 20 years ago was like the Wacom bamboo tablet, which is like their like starter tablet back then. And it's obviously one where you don't draw directly on the screen, you draw on the little tablet down here, and then you can see on the screen what it's doing. So I believe, you know, now Wacom, I don't think they have the bamboo one anymore, but they have taken into us like a beginner one, and I think it's about $70. So yes, $70 is a lot of money, but I think depending if you know what you're doing, if you're doing this a lot, then if you kind of base it based on the hours that you're saving on doing things and doing it better, then I think it is pretty worth it. Because if you think, you know, if you go to Starbucks every day, then, you know, that's what, $5, $6, $7 a day, then you will pay that off pretty quickly. But of course, still $70 is a lot of money. But I think in the long run, if you're going to be using those things for a long time, then it is actually pretty worth it, in my opinion. For instance, I had my bamboo one for a good maybe 5 years or so. So in those 5 years, I did a lot of digital artwork back then. So I'm sure once it gets down to it, it's like what, like pennies an hour for the usage I got out of it, or even less than a penny maybe. So I think that's worth it. And then after that, I got like the Intuos, like one of the more like better upgrades. So I had that one for like a good 15 years or so. So I still have that one. It's still working. That's what I was using until I upgraded just this last year to this monitor here. But before that, I've been using that one for forever. So it does last a long time. And I don't have any deals with Wacom or anything like that, but I just wanted to say that I think, you know, as you see here, I have a lot more freedom of being able to kind of paint it in the parts that I want, so that it is a lot easier than using your mouse, for sure. Okay, so I think, you know, this selection, they actually did a pretty darn good job this time, so it's not a lot for me to fix. I think it, you know, sometimes if there's areas where I don't really know what's going on there, I'll just paint in the area again and then figure out what it is, and then I'll just paint it back out again like that. The parts that you do want to really pay attention to, yeah, is going to be the hair, because typically the hair is going to be the part where there's going to be a lot of transparency there. If you were doing this for some other purpose, then you might want to use this tool over here called the refining tool, that like helps you kind of refine the hair and things like that, see? But for the purposes, like I said, for stickers, I don't want to include so much like transparency in areas like that. So I just want to have it be more of like a sharp edge. So that's why I don't like to use those. But those are useful for if you're doing some other types of projects or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to say that is actually pretty darn good already. Let's zoom back out a little. And I'm going to go back over here to the global refinements. Smooth, I don't like to use too much smooth just because I do want the line to be smooth, but what happens is you might start to lose certain things or add back parts of the background that you don't want. So I would say if you use, I would say use smooth, just not too much, and make sure you kind of take a look at what is being added and subtracted from your image. Okay, and then feather I never use, like I mentioned before, I don't want it to have a fuzzy edge. I do want the edge to be very sharp, so I will up the contrast there to get the edge to be very sharp. And then shift edge, I usually do subtract a little bit to shift it inward a little bit, just to get rid of any kind of extra little bit of backgrounds that you might have. So I think that looks really good to me. I'm gonna hit OK. So then it's going to select everything that you had there, and then you can just hit here on the where the layers are, the add mask button, and there you go. You have your image. One way I really like to check this to make sure, like, is there anything that I'm missing, is I right click on the image here under layers, and I go to blending options, and then I turn on stroke. And let's see, stroke, I want it to be a little bit smaller. I want it just to be like maybe 2 pixels, and I'm going to change it to like a darker color. Like, okay, so that a lot, so you can kind of see where there might be any kind of excess stuff. So this one actually was pretty clean, but you see there's like a little bit of something here. So I'm gonna make sure I'm on the mask here on the layers, and then I'm going to use black to paint out. So I'm going to just make sure, yeah, that any kind of extra things that they're all taken care of. So like the hair here, I might kind of just clean it up a little, just so that, you know, you don't have to be too careful with this, but you just want to make sure there's no like weird pieces that are like floating around somewhere, like this. Because sometimes you'll do this and then I'll turn this on and then there will just be tons of like things that were completely missed by the masking. Okay, so this one actually looks pretty darn good. Okay, so now over in Cricut Design Space, I'm going to upload the image that we just worked on. I am going to add it here. I'm going to select Complex, and then apply and continue, print and then cut image, and then hit upload. And then I'm going to select it and then add it to the canvas. There you go. And I like to add like a matte. So this is a matte that I created to kind of be able to see what is the optimal design space for the mattes. Recently Cricut did do an update and they changed the shape of it, so that's why it's a little bit more of a funky shape. It used to be just a rectangle before. I do have another video called How to Maximize Print and Cut on my channel, where you can see how I use this file, and also there is a download link for it if you want, for a letter size and an A4 size. Okay, so I like to use it in terms of just being able to place my stickers on here to see how many will fit on there. But first I'm going to make some changes to this image and put like an offset and then also like an outline. So I'm not really sure what size I want to do this yet, but I'm going to just put it at like 4 inches. So that's what I'm going to work on it as. I'm going to hold Alt and click and drag, and that's how you can make a copy in here. And this first one, I am going to make an offset for it of 0.02, and I'm gonna have it rounded, and this is more going to be just like an outline. So this is how I do like the black outline that some stickers have. You can change the color to something sort of different color if you would like. I'm gonna keep mine at black, and then this one I'm going to not have that one. And then I'm going to select this again. I'm going to go to the offset, and I am going to now do an offset of 0.07. Usually I will do it somewhere between 6 and 8, and hit apply. And then I'm going to change that color to white. So there you go. We have one that looks like that. And then this one, I am going to just do the 0.07 offset and not include. There you go. And same thing, I'm going to make that one white. Okay, and that looks pretty good to me. I like to just kind of review the image and make sure there's like no, you know, that they don't have any kind of weird holes in them or anything like that, right? Oh, this one does actually, see. So when you have something like that where it has a hole that you don't want to be cut later, either you can up the offset and make it higher, or sometimes I will just add a shape in here. I'll just pick any of these random shapes that will fit that. So this one, I'll just pick this one. I will then make it a little bit smaller, change the color to white. I'm going to put it over the area, and then I'm going to right click, send it to the back, and then I'm going to select everything and hit flatten. And same thing for here, I'm going to just select the whole thing and hit flatten. So now they are just like one thing. You can also fill in like these little areas if you want. I'm just going to leave them the way they are. Okay, so now I have those two images. I am going to now make a couple copies, and then I'm going to resize. So I'm going to make a 2-inch one, a 3-inch, oops, 3-inch, and then this one I'm going to make it 4. So I got 2, 3, 4, and same thing with this one. I think I'm going to do the same. I'm going to have it just be 2, 3, I did that again, 3 and 4. Okay, and then I'm just going to just add a couple more. And obviously, you know, normally you try to like maximize your space. You can just try to fill in as much as you can in here, but for this, I'm just gonna leave it like the way it is here. So once I have that, then I'm just gonna get rid of that. I'm going to select everything, and then I'm gonna hit attach. And when you do that, so that's why I use the mat and then I hit attach. That way, when you decide to make it, it's going to keep everything the way it is. Otherwise, if you have them separated, when you go to the next step, Cricut Design Space will try to organize them in their own way, and when they do that, it typically you will not maximize your space because they will leave a lot of empty space, so you'll waste a lot more vinyl. Here I can always add little things here if I wanted to, more things, but for today I'm not going to. Typically when I'm doing my real orders, I'll add in little things in there like freebie stickers and things. Like I have little ones that I add into those spaces so that I can not waste so much vinyl, and it takes a little bit longer obviously to cut, but then I have a lot of little extra stickers that I can just kind of give away with my orders for like little freebies. Okay, so then I will then go to make it. And it's already sorted into its space. So I'm going to put here 2, because I'm going to make 2 of these. And then continue. So here on this page here, then we are going to then do the printing. I am actually going to make one that is on white vinyl and one on holographic vinyl. So I'm going to print it twice, and I have different print settings for each one, so I am going to be doing that. Okay, so the stickers are printing right now. The first page here is going to be the white glossy, or actually the white matte vinyl. And I'm just using my Epson Ecotank ET8550. This is pretty much just a photo printer, but for the purposes that I've been using them for, kind of making these sticker sheets, it's been working really, really well. I actually really like this printer. I've had a lot of printers that I've had and I've used for work and things throughout my life, but I feel like this one is one of my favorites, and mostly it's just because like the ink. If you guys aren't aware, like the Ecotank printers, they use like these bottles like this, and you just fill them in, and there's like a reservoir here that you can see how much ink is left here. You can make that out there, and it is just so much better than just the regular cartridges. I used to just hate the cartridges. They would like get all dry and you just have to replace them all the time. These ones just seem to last so long. I've had this printer now for 7 months, and I've only bought 2 sets of replacement inks, and there was some ink that came with it. So it came with the ink, and I bought like 2 sets of replacements, and each set, including like the black ink, is about $110. So, and I still actually have a bunch of it left. So the second set that I bought is still like, I still have like maybe half of each bottle left. So I think this one like has more than half. So I have it right here still. So there's still plenty of ink in there. So I'm gonna say, I think the other day when I ran like the little report, it said I printed like 4,000 pages or something like that. And that is quite still a lot of ink left over for that amount. So I actually really like this printer. I would recommend it. I am actually obviously looking into printing on rolls. I think I mentioned that in a different video. So I am looking to get a printer that prints on rolls and the ink that is a little bit more like water resistant and also UV resistant. So I do want to look into that. That's my next big upgrade. But for the last 7 months, this printer has been doing a good job for me making stickers. So I think the quality is really nice, and I haven't had any really problems with it so far. So this next page that's printing is actually a holographic paper. So it's going to be the obviously it's going to be a little bit more silver gray undertone, so the colors aren't as vibrant on it. But of course then you get that holographic effect, so it's pretty cool. Okay, so the next step that I'm going to do is I am actually going to use a hair dryer just to dry these out, because I am going to laminate them. And one of the big contributors to making bubbles when you're doing any kind of laminating is if your paper is still wet. So especially in colder weather, it just will not dry fast enough. Okay, so once you have your sheets dried, then I am going to be laminating them, and I'm going to be using a thermal laminator. But of course, if you don't have one, you can always purchase the cold lamination sheets. So the cold lamination sheets are like sticky, so you can just use those and you don't have to have any kind of machinery to go with them. I do have 2 laminators that I have used. The Amazon Basics one is actually the first one that I got, and it was working okay. The benefit of that one is that it does heat up really, really quickly, but I found the heat to be a little bit uneven sometimes. So that's why I actually went to the Scotch one. So I got this one second. This one worked really, really well. The only downside is that it does take a little bit of time for it to like warm up to the heat that you need. But I think maybe because it doesn't have that really fast heat up, that it's a little bit more like dependable and consistent. And I found like this one gave me a lot less bubbles, but unfortunately it started having problems recently. So something with like the gears inside here is wrong, and now this anti-jam kind of feature here, it will just kind of keep going up and down, and it will stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. So something with the mechanism that kind of keeps the sheet kind of going through is now not working very well. So this one now, unfortunately, I don't use anymore. So I reverted back to using the original one. Both of them have like a setting for either 3mm or 5mm. But for my lamination sheets that I use, I've noticed that for both laminators, if I use 3mm, even though my sheets are 3mm, it just does not heat up enough to melt the pages enough, because then what happens is that the pages, after they go through, they're actually very cloudy still. So I noticed that if I just use 5mm on all of them, then it actually looks so much better, and it seems like the lamination actually sticks to the paper a lot better anyways. So for yourself, I would test it. Even if you are using 3mm sheets, test it on 5mm too to see which one works best for you. And how I always do it with these the thermal lamination sheets is I will do 2 sheets at a time. So I have 2 sheets here. I will do them like back to back like this. So so this side will be this one, and then this side will be like this. And then you just always kind of tap it just to make sure like you get all like the little dander and dust or hairs or whatever you have floating around, they don't get in, they don't stay in there. Then I will close it like that. Okay, so in that way, when you laminate like this, and you can then separate the two sheets later after you laminate it. If you are only doing one sheet and you don't have anything else, you don't have a second sheet to laminate, you can always just put in like printer paper in there and it'll do the same thing. So once you laminate it, you can cut the edges off and then you can separate the two sheets. So any kind of paper that you put in there will be fine, as long as it's like not wrinkled paper and it's not super thick. Okay, so then once I have that and let me try to pull you off of here. So once I have that and this is all good, and you see that the light is green for you to feed it through, then I'm just going to make sure it's not like crumpled or anything. You're not bunching it up anywhere, and then you just feed it through. I'm gonna move this to the center. And typically for this, I will put it through multiple times because I find that that's kind of what works best for these laminators. Is if you run it through a couple of times, it's going to be a lot better. Because if you run it through just one time, you can kind of tell that the sheets aren't really fully like melded to the page. So I like to run it through a couple of times. So, and then I always like flip it. So now I have this side up. So typically I will run it through 3 times is my usual number. Okay, so when I cut these, you just cut along the edge and then like that. You should be able to easily separate them. If you can't, then you can just cut a little bit off of the vinyl and be able to open it that way. So they come apart very easily. So now I have 2 sheets that are laminated. Okay, so I'm just loading the sheets on here. And if you don't have, I would recommend getting some sort of a roller like this, because it does help. Especially as your mats get less and less sticky, then the roller really helps, because I feel a lot of times lots of the errors come when the page starts separating from the mat, and that's when you kind of get your Cricut Maker all jammed up. Okay, so I am going to be using my Cricut Maker 3. I do have a 6-month review that I had just put up on my channel, so if you haven't seen that, go look at that video to kind of see my pros and cons for this machine. I did kind of pick this up, this little thing here that adds, like, you put it here, you put it there, and it helps you like support like the mat. So that's really great because I don't have a lot of space, so my Cricut Maker kind of hangs off the side of this table here. So with that little addition, it helps support the mat so much better. So instead of it kind of just flopping over, you can leave it like this. So it's nice. So I'm going to turn that on. Okay, and then I'm gonna go over to the machine here. So I've already printed. Okay, so the first sheet here is going to be, I already have a setting picked on. It's going to be this laminated white stickers, and I'm going to put more. Okay, so I am going to then, okay, so it's good. I am going to then go back here, and then now that I have that setting, you can push the little button for it to load inside. Okay, and once it loads and it's read the mat, then I can press this button here for it to begin. For the white stickers, it's just going to do one pass, and it's just going to cut through one time. So let's see if it cuts it correctly this time. And in terms of like lighting, also I have tried all different lightings. I've tried no overhead lighting, super bright light on it. I've tried cutting in the dark, all of it. Nothing has really, none of it has actually solved like the problem with it like reading the registration lines. So now I just kind of just let it do its thing, because for me it always seems to be that 10-20% that always go wrong anyway. So I'm not going to really concern myself on the specifics of like turning on the lights, off the lights, this, that. A lot of times when I like start the cuts, I will kind of look here to see like what it's doing, because a lot of times if you kind of see like right away if it's cutting it very incorrectly, you can like pause it and then just have it restart over so that you don't waste a whole page. But this one today looks like it's doing a pretty good job. Yeah, it looks to me that it is doing a decent job this time. It doesn't seem to be too off or anything like that. Okay, so it's reading the registration lines. So while it's doing that, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, so recently my orders were kind of getting a little bit more than this little Cricut Maker could handle. So I was thinking about either getting another one or changing to a different machine, and I actually ended up getting a different machine. So now I am starting to switch over directly to the other machine, which is this one. It's a Graphtec CE7000. So this is the one that I've been actually using this to make my orders now. But I am still kind of learning this machine too. But for now, I still use the Cricut Maker for some things. I'm gonna peel away this part. And that's gonna leave behind just these stickers here. And then I like to just use this little tool to help get them up. If your mat is like a new mat and it's really sticky, you may not want to use this method. Typically it's better for you to kind of like bend the mat and kind of peel these off, but my mat's a little bit less sticky now, so if I kind of carefully do this, you won't really damage the stickers or kind of curl them or anything. Okay, so there you have it. There are these stickers. They are really cute. So here is the white vinyl ones, glossy, and then this one here is the the one on the holographic. So that is going to have that holographic sheen to it. But you notice, like, obviously the colors are going to be a lot less bright. They're going to be a lot more muted because of this silver base of this sticker paper. But it does look really cute. I really do like the holographic ones with the outline. So this is what we ended up with, these cute little stickers here. I think they're adorable. I'm going to be giving this to my sister and to their grandma for just a little bit of a addition to a Mother's Day gift. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel. I am going to be making a lot more videos related to making stickers because I do run a sticker shop on Etsy. And I'm going to make a lot more videos related to the Graphtec CE7000, which is a great machine, but absolutely not that user-friendly to begin with. So hopefully I can make some videos now that I've started making stickers on it to help some other beginners. And obviously I would take some tips too. If there's some experts out there, please send me tips and I will take them, I will use them. So until next time guys, see ya.